So when I write, I like to have this crystal with me for whatever that's worth. Someone gave me this about a year ago, and I usually hold it in one hand while I write with the other, hoping the clarity will flow through my body and out the pen onto the paper. And sometimes I'll put it in the right hand, in the writing hand, which is the right hand, to power it up on that crystal clear vision. I don't know if it really works or not, but if you believe it works, then it will work at least a little bit. It's been over 3 months since I've posted anything, taken a break from posting and being very social in general. There have been some pretty big changes in my life the last, a little over 3 months. I haven't made any updates. I left Bali and now splitting my time here between Williamsburg, Virginia and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And it's been good. It's been good. I miss the sunshine, I miss the surf, and a couple other things. Came back to look after some family. That's why I'm here, and it's good. I always knew this time in my life would come, and yeah. So this is my new writing space. It's actually, first it's my recording space, thus the sound dampening pads, and it's my good microphone over here. I was going to use actually this for making some, like a podcast video talking about some philosophy and meditation stuff that I've been wanting to get out there and to share. And it's funny, every time I've gone to set up like the lights and my actual camera and used a good microphone and sit down and talk to the camera, I've tried that about 3 times, and every time I do it, I choke. I feel like everything's so like kind of almost professional looking. I feel like I need to like say something really profound or brilliant and I just haven't been able to get through it. So yeah, I record my meditations here, and then in the mornings I'll open up the windows and I sit here and write, and that's when I usually have my best ideas that I want to share. But whenever I set things up, I just can't really get the words out. So I decided the other day to just put my phone up here, got a little miniature tripod, and thought I would just like leave it on and kind of forget about it. And then when I felt like maybe saying something, I just would. So that's where I'm at now. This will be the first official post from the writing lab. It's the writing lab in the morning when I write, and then it's the beat lab in the evening when I record meditations. So it depends if I'm sitting this way or that way. So I thought I would share one of my cards. You guys know I like to write on the 3x5 cards. I'm writing I'm writing a book with them at this point. But the song's getting a little too much, sorry. I do like this song, but sometimes it's too much. So I thought I'd share one of these cards, my philosophy cards, because this one I feel like is very pertinent to what's going on in my headspace today, and a lot in general actually, as I'm striving to be more productive with the meditation programs I create. It's easy to create them for clients because I have a deadline and I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and how to do it, but now I'm working on creating meditation programs for like kind of for everybody, general public, or however you'd want to say it. And I'm meeting with a lot of resistance, whether it be in the form of procrastination or distracting myself or other forms of self-sabotage. So I forget when I wrote this one. It might have been when I was still in Bali, but I was reflecting on this one recently, and it actually, the realization helps, right? For me, anyway. So I'll read the card to you. I'll read what's on the back of it, and I'll maybe talk a little bit more about what it means to me if you're still listening. I don't blame you if you phase out, because I know I speak a little slowly and I say sometimes more than I need to. So the front of the card, the actual thought says, the closer one gets to self-actualization, the stronger the voice of self-destruction becomes. You can't ever believe the lies. The closer one gets to self-actualization, to me, that's, the closer someone gets to achieving their goals or really realizing their potential and manifest, the stronger the voice of self-destruction becomes, the inner critic, right? The Stephen Pressfield, in his book, The War of Art, speaks of that inner resistance being, part of the ego or the fear of success and failure. More on that later. I could go down that rabbit hole, but another time. You can't always believe the lies. The more you begin to actually do your thing, the louder the voice of resistance tries to tear you down. The negative inner critic begins to shit on everything you do or say as a means to halt your progress of self-actualization and liberating your mind and soul. The ego fears your growth and change, terrible change, and will try to destroy your evolution with tricks of self-sabotage in every form imaginable. Keep this in mind. You mustn't listen to the inner critic. So there's 1,000 different ways to say this. So to me, inner resistance, it's one's fear of change. Change could be failure, change could be success, change could be, so many things. But there are those that say that the closer we get to achieving our, goal of some type of actualization, realization in life, stepping up to that next higher level, there's that unconscious fear of that change, and also just becoming someone different. Sometimes to do great things in life, we have to be different. Maybe we have to be more disciplined. Maybe we have to stop hanging out with certain people, certain family members that squash our positive energy, that halt our progress. So unconsciously, we might really fear change on a deep cellular level. And so as we begin to act with more discipline or more structure and actually move closer to our goal, the inner critic starts chiming in and saying, hey, like, who do you think you are? You're not that smart. Or who do you think you are to share this type of wisdom with the world? Like, what kind of a fuck up are you? Or how imperfect are you? Or how undisciplined are you? You have a horrible past. Your unconscious mind could say to yourself, you have a horrible past. You've done so many terrible, stupid things. You're not worthy of success. you're a piece of shit, or, you think you're putting something good together. You've been doing well with a project, putting your pieces together, your puzzle pieces together. And again, the closer you start to get to making something, bringing something into actual manifest, the stronger that voice gets, and sometimes the more ruthless it becomes, because you're getting closer, and somewhere inside you're afraid of that success, and you're afraid of that failure. So that's when a person might really tear themselves down with more negative thinking and just more horrible self-destructive thoughts, or even sometimes old habit patterns might kick in, unconscious habit patterns to distract you, whether it be going to smoke some weed when you should do work, or going shopping, spending money you need to invest back into yourself, or God, right? There's an infinite amount of ways to self-sabotage, to distract ourselves, to fall into old bad habits. So it's something to keep in mind, I think, that, catching yourself sometimes in the moment when you hear that inner critic downgrading your potential. Maybe stop for a moment and say, hey, well, do I really think this way about myself, or have I been doing pretty well with some things? Or maybe I've even been kicking ass with a lot of things. And maybe, just maybe, this is that voice of resistance, that inner critic, that voice of fear, the ego trying to keep me down. There's a positive intention there too. The ego wants to protect us from change, terrible, terrible change. So it's not necessarily always a bad intention on that part of the ego, or from that voice of resistance. But we have to learn how to flip it in some way. Or if nothing else, just take a moment and find your breath. Connect to the breath, ride that breath within. Full, deep, rhythmic breaths, and become present in our mind and say, you know what? And say, like, fuck you, resistance. I'm not so bad, actually. Actually, I'm pretty smart, And yeah, I've made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I still continue to make mistakes, but when I stay focused and I do my work, and I keep in mind who it is I want to be, who I want to become, and the actions that it takes to become that person, that's real power right there. And everything inside of you might make you want to reach for the phone and start scrolling on social media and distracting yourself, or all those infinite forms of distraction, where you've set aside time to sit down and focus, whether it be just organized planning, trying to figure out what you want to do or how to do it, or sometimes just like tuning out everything digital and looking out your window and listening to some music, and have maybe a blank piece of paper in front of you, write down some ideas, or not. Just let your mind think constructively without the digital influence, and being aware of your thoughts, and putting your mind into check when things are getting negative, and realizing it's not really who you are. Who we are in our essence is, it's a higher realm of consciousness, right? Like the soul and the mind, they influence one another, definitely. When people can get really negative and dark, and this, the habits become destructive, and Marcus Aurelius quoted that souls are dyed by thought, and I do believe that. We can darken our soul, but we can also lighten our soul too. It's the mind, the influence the mind has on the soul, but also the soul has influence on the mind when you're in that negative space and you're thinking horrible things about yourself, you can kind of like take a moment and check in with that higher realm of consciousness and see your yourself from your higher self, from your soul, and remind yourself that while you are imperfect, you're also a good person, you're also a good soul, and you are worthy of succeeding, you are worthy of fulfillment, you are worthy of finding happiness. It's not always easy to think or to feel that. So those are the times when you need it the most. Take some breaths, and sack up and say, yeah, to yourself, yes, I am a good soul. I am a good person. Yeah, I'm imperfect, but I'm also capable of doing very good work. And I'm capable of achieving my goals, and I'm capable of contributing great value to humanity. Those are kind of forms of affirmations in a way. To me, affirmation is a way of guiding your thought, taking over the internal dialogue, which is super important. A super important skill to cultivate. Actually, I wouldn't mind doing a whole thing on my thoughts on affirmation and the importance of guiding the internal dialogue. So I'll let y'all go today. I don't want to keep this too long. For those of y'all who are still listening, thank you. And again, to wrap it up, the moral of the story today is be aware of that internal dialogue and recognize when your thoughts are being negative or your habit patterns are being somewhat destructive. And take note, maybe it's because I have been doing better and I'm getting closer to achieving my goals, or closer to becoming more and better and brighter. And maybe, just maybe, that's the ego's bullshit telling me lies to keep me down. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Brighten things up with some positive self-talk, and or with taking some positive action. That's one of the best ways to bolster our self-belief, actually, is by taking action. Whether you sit down and you write for 10 minutes, you do organized planning, you shift to breath awareness, a little breath meditation. Maybe you could do a quick stretch on the mat, maybe go to the gym, send someone a positive, uplifting text message, do something positive and in some way productive, and that also gives you a boost in your self-concept and how you see yourself. So again, thanks. Get back to my coffee here. Cheers. Have a good day.